Good morning, Deborah here, and it is morning, so you will not be hearing late chimes of the clock this time. All right, we're going to talk today about several things, but we're going to start with doorbells and drones. Did you know that you could be fined 45,000 euros if you have the wrong kind of doorbell on the front of your house? This is not a joke. This is very serious. There is a law in France. You may not install a doorbell with one of those cameras that faces out so that you can see what's going on outside. That's against the law. This is another part of our privacy laws. They're very extensive, so because they're so extensive, I could be talking to you for an hour, and I'm not going to do that. What I think I'm going to do is give you the highlights today, and I'm going to put the entire transcript of what I am discussing right now in the show notes. Where it says description, you will have the entire thing. It's everything that I'm saying now. Okay? So, here's the reason why. People, again, just like I discussed in the last one about privacy, people assume a right to privacy. They don't think the neighbors have the right to know who's visiting them at their door. They don't think the neighbors have the right to be seeing what they're carrying in the house. They want to have privacy. So you cannot have one of those doorbells that has the little camera. They sell them in France. They're called Ring. That's the main one that's sold on Amazon. I don't know why they sell them, because you can't use them. You're not allowed to have a camera facing outward on the street, or, outward beyond your front door area. You know all those funny videos you can watch online that shows, okay, a deer has come in from the forest and it's walked up to your front door and it's looking like this. Or the ones where the postman is carrying a package and he's looking down at something and all of a sudden he slips on your front door and whoo, he falls down. No, you're not allowed to have anything like that here where you can see what has just happened outside your front door. Nothing that records at all is allowed. So you need to know that. If you think you can bring everything with you that you had and which was considered normal in the United States or the UK or Australia or Canada, no, the French do not have doorbell cameras. I'm sorry, they don't. You can have other kinds of cameras in your yard. Let's say, for instance, I walked out and I've got a 5 meter to 10 meter space in my front garden. I can put a camera that turns around and faces my door, but not one that faces the street. There's the difference. You cannot have anything that faces outward. Nothing. Seriously. This goes to court. Almost every week you hear cases of someone has appealed it and said, oh, well, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, well, it wasn't that bad. And the judge will find in favor of the person who is living in the house or in the house across the street and say, no, you know better. You're not allowed to have any camera that faces their house and that you can see what's going on in their house or around their house or in their front garden. That's a firm rule here. You really need to pay attention to that. So in the show notes, you will find all the rules and regulations about why you can't have that. All right? That's number one. Number two. Sorry, I'm a little gummy this morning. Sinuses. Anyway, drones. Oh gosh, drones. Everybody loves drones, and the price of them has come down dramatically. No, we don't have a drone. I wouldn't even bother. There's so few places in France where you can use a drone. The thing with drones is they've come down so much in price, and the camera that I'm using right now is a DJI camera. And DJI makes some of the most darling little drones. But you are not allowed to fly a drone over any sort of area that's occupied. Even as small as a village, you cannot fly a drone over a village. You cannot fly a drone over someone's backyard. You cannot fly a drone over anything that's like a power plant, a schoolyard, any sort of official government building. There's a list of places you can't use a drone. In other words, any place where, more than one or two people gathered together, no, you cannot use them. So don't think you can be sitting in an outdoor cafe and you whiz your drone up and you're taking a picture of all of your friends and family and you're going, woo, at the drone. No, that's against the law. I've been watching this for about a year now, and we have people that we follow on YouTube, and you'll notice that they're very careful here in France. About the only place they ever fly their drone is out in the countryside. Hang on, the phone is ringing. That's very odd because we don't normally keep our phone ringers on. I should talk to you about that today, about phones. It's a bit of a problem here. All right, now back to drones. The people we watch on YouTube that use their drones, they're in the countryside. They fly beautiful opening shots for their channel, going up and over the trees and up and over their farm and whatever. They do not fly a drone in a town. That's against the law. Again, it's tens of thousands of euros in fines, and they do fine you. So, again, in the show notes, you will find the list of all the rules and regulations, the official government page to drones. So this is not me making it up. I'm going to stick in a little comment here. I really do resent the comments that I'm getting from people. They're from French people, or they're mostly not from French people. Mostly they are from European, American, British people who have moved here and gone, oh, nobody cares. I can do whatever I want to. No, you cannot do that. Oh, everybody knows that it's no big deal. No, it is a big deal. So go ahead. Fly your drone, use a doorbell camera, and get fined 45,000 euros. And if you take it to court and you think you're going to be clever and talk somebody out of, no, the judge is going to look at you like you're an absolute fool because there are published laws, and you will not only end up with the fine, you will end up with the court fees and possibly an additional fine. So isn't it better? I'm trying to tell you these things so you don't get into trouble, so you don't assume. And there's the problem, assumption. You cannot move to a foreign country and assume that you can do everything that you did back where you were living before. Wouldn't you rather know that ahead of time? Now, about the contentious people issue, I have removed over 24 people for making really vile comments to me, and I'm not going to tell you what they are, but they range from mildly critical to horrendous. One American man said, oh, you're making that up, you're just so fake, nobody has to have a physical. And thank heavens, before I removed his comment, there was a nice young man, and he made a point of saying that he was a nice young man. Let's see. Jean-Marc. Jean-Marc, thank you. Thank you so much. He lives in the Nouvelle-Aquitaine now, and he moved down here from the United States. And he went through a very detailed comment. All right, so I'm going to read this really quickly. He said he had his medical exam and x-ray in May, so not so long ago. You had to prove all the following. He had a chest x-ray. He had to prove his COVID record of jabs. How many did I have? Was it the full set? Many other vaccinations. So keep your vaccination records. I don't know if you still do that in the United States. They still do that in Australia. You have like a little booklet that records all your vaccinations, please keep those, because if you come over here and you're logging into the systems, they want to know. Have you had tetanus? Have you had hepatitis? Have you had an eye test? They give you a mental health questionnaire. This young man went through this for 2 days. They test your blood pressure. They want to know all about your family history. They take an AIDS blood test, but it is voluntary at the moment. And then they ask him about any operations he had had. In other words, when you come over here, bring your medical records. They want to know what is what. I mentioned that several episodes back. And of course, I had Americans. It's always the Americans who want to argue with me about, oh, I don't need to do that. Yes, you do. Just because you slipped under the radar, that does not mean you're somebody special. That means you just had some lazy person at the prefecture that you're going to be living in. The rules are the rules for a reason, okay? Their rules are there for everyone's safety. The next thing, photography. I've had so many people going, oh God, you've made that up. You're so fake. You're fabricating things. No, I'm not fabricating things. And a very nice man named Mike said, this more or less mirrors the governing EU policy on privacy. I retired from a multinational company headquartered in Germany, and we had online training in EU public photography and filming when the EU policy was put in place. If you're traveling in the EU, keep this in mind. It is not France specific. Everything that I have given you, I am trying to be a source of truth. I don't make this up, by the way. Thank you again, Mike, and thank you, Jean-Marc. You two were lovely to give me long explanations that hopefully some people read. So, what's really sad is you move here thinking like a tourist. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're coming over here to have a new life, a better life, to have some fun, to not feel like you're living in the middle of a crazy house, especially if you're in the United States. And you don't think about the implications of embracing EU rule. Is very different, all right? So I'm trying to make sure you have a knowledgeable source for information. All right, I'm not talking to you about currency exchange and, you know, how much money your Social Security is going to make and all that. There are other channels that do that. Here, I am more focused on research because that's what I used to do. Up until, I think it was 2018 or 2019, I was the head of research and education at a company called DQR. They were headquartered in Malta. They were a think tank. I wrote white papers that were distributed all over the world. They were published. I had a staff of young people underneath me that, you know, they would write things and I would go, oh God, no, you know, and I would have to redo things. So I just did them myself. At DQR, we had to comply with the GDPR regulations, which is the privacy regulations. And then I had to do research and hand out packets of information to these young people who worked for me so they understood how important it was. All of this started to come in. The GDPR passed the European Parliament in 2016, and then it became fully enacted on the 25th of May 2018. Now, this is why this is so important. The right to privacy is part of the 1950, got that? 1950 European Convention on Human Rights. They've been looking into privacy and giving you a better way of life since right after World War II. This is not something new. This is not something that you can go, oh, you know, maybe they'll get rid of it after a while. No, the rules get tighter and tighter every year to enable you to come here and know that you can live a quiet and peaceful life. Now I'm going to backtrack slightly on something and go back to the issue about cameras. The camera rule And it's not always doorbell cameras. It's those little observation cameras that you can put up in your back garden, for instance. If you want to see, okay, do I have a fox climbing into my back garden? Who's eating, what kind of creature is eating my garden vegetables? That's fine, as long as, and this is really important, not kidding. Wherever you sight the camera, it cannot have any overlap so that it looks into the next door neighbor's garden. You can't have somebody looking into your back garden. There was someone here recently in one of these villages. I'm not going to name the village so that the person doesn't feel like they're being named. They had a camera up in their back garden that was mounted up high on their back wall, and it covered part of their back garden, but it also covered over into the street. All right, again, right away, they've broken the law. So it's not a front doorbell camera, it's a back garden camera, but it overlapped. That broke the law. They had robbers that came over the back of the garden fence. The robbers' faces were so identifiable that they thought that would be helpful for the police. And when they gave the footage to the police said, we can't use this because you broke the law. So the robbers got away with it, even though they were identifiable, and the police could have been used by that if they had just moved the camera a little bit so all it did was face into these people's back garden. But they thought, oh, well, we'll have broad coverage, and they had it all the way like this so that it was into the street. This is how seriously they take it. I really want you to please pay attention. I don't want any of you getting in trouble with these things. So please do pay attention. It matters. It can affect your entire enjoyment of moving to a new country, and you've already got the getting accustomed to a foreign language on a daily basis, to slightly different kinds of food, all the bureaucracy. You've got all of those as stressor. The last thing you need to do is find that you're, being cited and receiving a citation for, 45,000 euros because you've broken the law. Don't do that to yourself. Really, I'm trying to help. I'm not trying to pick on anybody. And by the way, for people who commented on the last video, which was Mark's ride up along the coast, he shot 5 to 6 hours worth on his little camera, his little action camera. I had to pare it down to a half an hour. So please don't complain about the fact that I didn't include your village, or I didn't include your town on the coastline, or whatever. I'm not going to give you 5.5 to 6 hours worth of video just so every single place that was along the way got included. That's just crazy. Frankly, I shouldn't be by now, because we've had people who have been rude on and off all along. And I'm not naive. I know that as soon as you put a channel on YouTube, you open up the possibility of people being really rude. Just because they can be, and I don't understand things like that. Let me quickly check my show notes. All right. All right. I don't really consider our channel a lifestyle channel that's fluffy. We will show you funny things. Mark will show you him out being goofy in the woods with a bicycle. We'll occasionally show you things that we do around the house that are silly or funny. But we're not one of those lifestyle channels where we come out and we twirl around in a dress. Or we come down to dinner and we, change into a different dress or a different outfit every day and go, oh, darling, what's on the table for dinner tonight? Oh, you've set the table so beautifully, and blah, blah, blah. If those people live like that, good for them. I'm just lucky we get dinner on the table at night. We're not that funny and fluffy and frou-frou. We are not frou-frou. We are not a fluffy channel. If you need a fluffy channel, go find it. There are so many channels here. There's something for everyone. You cannot necessarily find valid information about issues like your visas. And some of those people on those channels have gotten into trouble with their visas because they didn't follow all the rules, and they've had to turn around and go back to their home country and start the whole process over again. So when I gave you all the rules about the visas, and I gave you the links that told you exactly what was required, I did that for a reason. I would prefer to be a source of truth, a source of valid information. So no, you're not going to see me coming down the stairs, fluttering and going, "Oh, darling, what's on the table for dinner?" No, I'm sorry. I'm not that theatrical. No. Anyway, let's see if there's anything else that I needed to check. Okay, tagging people. When you make a comment, your YouTube name or your email address comes up in the comment. And unfortunately, we've had at least 2 people who have followed us in the last month who have decided they're going to click on those people's names and contact them and go, "Oh, you're down there. Okay, I give personal tours of this area." Or, "Oh, you haven't learned to speak French yet. I give personal one-on-one lessons in French." I am not a job board. Please do not tag the people who come here to see what's on this channel. That's really rude. And the people who come here to read our information, to watch our bits of silliness, they don't need to have somebody else contacting them out of the clear blue. That's rude. It's bordering on incredibly unethical. So if I find out about it again, you will be removed. And if you have been contacted by any of those people, please send me a note so that I can remove them. That's just not on. That's not the way you do things. All right. Next week, not sure. We've got a couple of things in the works as far as doing something outside of the house, as long as the weather is not drowning us like little wet puppies in the rain. But also, several of you have asked about insurance. Well, what do you insure your house for, and how do you get insurance? That's actually a really good question. Thank you. See, that was a really good question. So what I'd like to do is investigate the cost of insurance. And what I can do is I will give you based on how we're paying, because I don't know what everybody else is paying. I really don't. But you have to find either a trustworthy insurance agency, and a lot of people here seem to change their homeowners and their car insurance almost every year, because when you give them the chance to comparison price, they'll come up with a better price. The prices have gone up. Yes, of course they have, but they have not gone up anywhere near the United States or Australia or England. So you can still live here and have all of your insurance, and it's affordable. All right? But for instance, housing insurance, it's very different. So I'll give you more details on that when I do the insurance episode. So if you have more questions, please send them in. I need more questions because I keep writing them down, and like the woman who asked the question about insurance, I'm not ignoring you when I say we'll address that in a future episode. I feel like it's better to clump the subject matter together and wait till I can do it thoroughly instead of just giving you an off-the-cuff answer that'll get lost in the comments. So I think that's wise. I hope you think that's wise also. I can't think of anything else. I'm going to go have a tiny little bowl with a tiny little bit of muesli at the bottom, and then chopped fruit, and then cottage cheese on the top. And a coffee with oat milk on top, oat milk latte. That will start my day off really well. All right. It's good to see all of you. Thank you very much. Hope everyone's having a good week because it's a little crazy out there in the world. And look, nobody got raptured. Now, if you don't understand that reference, just look it up. It's been everywhere on the news for the last 3 days. Someone asked me if we were going to cover religious beliefs. I might lightly touch on that, but religious beliefs are a personal choice. And I don't think my belief system or Mark's or a lot of the people that we know personally would appreciate if people criticized ours. We just think it's a personal choice. So, anyway, we're going to leave it there. Have a good week. It's wonderful having you all here. Oh, heavens, I forgot. We have close to 1,000 members now. We're over 900. I'm so thrilled. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You keep passing us on. You keep hitting like. YouTube keeps spreading it. We're almost to 1,000. Now, the next thing I'm going to need your help with. Once we get to 1,000, then we have to get to 4,000 watch hours. We're over 2,000. I think we're at about 2,600. So we're going to have a big push, which means, please, if you're brand new, go back through the catalog and go, oh God, I'm not really, just turn it on and let it run and let it go to the end. I mean, give us every chance you can to build up the watch hours. We need to build them up so that we can go like that and we're monetized. And if you think we're going to get monetized right away and we're going to be rich, no. Maybe in a year we might have enough to make a living, and I mean the most frugal of livings. So, as two people who arrived here and then found out that they had no pensions from Australia, having a living would be good. Secondly, buy me a coffee. Thank you. Several people have done that this week. And that has helped because I am going to have to replace this poor little thing. This little MacBook Pro is just getting so tired because every time I do a film on it, every time I have to render video, it's just running like that. It runs hot, it runs loud. What I'm going to try and do is buy one of those little, it's about like that big, about that thick. It's a little Mac Mini. So it's a MacBook. It's a computer from Apple. And it's got an improved chip like you wouldn't believe because this thing is 10 years old. And I can hook it up to one of my big monitors upstairs and I can have a brand new computer that will last for another 10 years. So that's exciting. So the people who bought us a coffee are helping us because these things are between 800 and 1,000. They're helping us buy this and we need this. We absolutely need this because if all of a sudden we went dark, I'm sorry, I don't think I would feel comfortable filming these episodes and then sending them on a phone. No, I don't think that I would be happy doing that. And my eyes are not good anymore. Trying to edit on a tiny little phone screen, because I had a girlfriend of mine who lives overseas and she has a travel channel and she said, oh, Deborah, don't you know you can just do it on your phone? And I went, Barbara, no, I'm not editing anything on a phone. Thanks anyway. My eyes are not that wonderful. So thank you to the Buy Me a Coffee people. I will have an extended Buy Me a Coffee list of patrons on here at the end. I appreciate everything you're trying to do to make us succeed. You're helping us. We're in this together, all right? You're not just watching an entertainment channel. You realize that we're all in this together. Things will continue to change in Europe, in the world, and we hope to stay up to date with all of these things. That's being helpful. That's being informative. That's being educational, not fluffy. But there's nothing wrong with fluffy. Go watch the fluffy people too. So, all right, now this time I really am ending. Bye for now.